Another day in the NBA, and we're going to do what we always do here on the Splash Play NBA channel. We're going to dig in and compare my projections to some of the industry leaders out there, like Stokastic and like our friends at Unabated. We're also going to see what Unabated has for us in the best bets now that we are back on a full many-game slate as opposed to the two-gamer we had last night going against the College Basketball National Championship. We're also going to look at some of the top plays right now on Stokastic, the best DFS plays. And by the end of this video, you know, the must plays and my splash plays. Today's slate, let's get into it. Your Q-Tag tweet, LeBron, Luka, Jason Tatum. It's a really tough one today, guys. And we're going to talk about the Q-Tag stuff and the concept overall. I think of how to adapt for NBA slates where you do have so many Q-Tag players. I think it's something I don't say people are struggling with, but did have a discussion with my guy KY in the chat before, or the Discord before. And it sounded like a bit. So I don't think he's named for the lubricant. But either way, though, let's talk about him a little bit about like swappability and the importance of kind of having flexibility in these slates. He disagrees, thinks that sometimes people are a little bit too caught on the idea of like trying to swap around for later value. In reality, for the NBA, at least in terms of how I view it and how I think a lot of the sharpest players view it out, who are actually, you know, crushing every day out there. You want to have that swappability because situations change. You want to have the choice between, do I want this guy in the first game who maybe looks good right now, or do we know that player Y might be opened up later on because Jason Tatum's out, Jaylen Brown is out. That guy might be worth me holding off to make sure that I get a lot of exposure to that guy. There's the kind of debates you have to make for yourself on most slates, but on ones like this where you have so many potential star players out, I think it's important to kind of keep some flexibility for yourself as best you can and just really be aware of these Q-tags today. Anyway, from the top again, LeBron, Luka, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kawhi Leonard, Pascal Siakam, Kristaps Porzingis, Austin Reeves, Josh Giddey, Nikola Vucevic, Miles Bridges, who was a late downgrade, Kelly Olynyk, Jose Alvarado. These two are going to go, so that's one good news item we got here. Let's get into my projections. One thing to note here, Stokastic is not updated as of right before the show, so I had to change a few things around for Washington in particular, because Tristan Vucevic is out today. He looked like he would have been a very good play. Unfortunately, now he's unavailable. He maybe opens up a little bit more of Alex Sarr, a little bit of JT Thor, but we'll see what we get there. Right now, top of the players for me, though. Number one would be Giannis Antetokounmpo. So the issue for him getting squeezed by having Bobby Portis come back in is 25 game suspension. That's now over. So he'll be back in the lineup today. As a result, Giannis still going to play about 35 minutes. He can hit a ceiling for sure. But the projection's got to come down a little bit when you have a guy like Portis coming in, contributes well in a lot of the categories that Giannis excels at. That's why for me today, Giannis looking okay. I've been 57.9 compared to Stokastic's 57-point projection, but only a 4.6x value. Still getting him at 17% of my lineups, obviously, with the projection that high. I have about 8 points higher than the next guy. For me, that'd be Luka Doncic. It's a pretty big discrepancy, so you'll still get Giannis, but Giannis is not as good of a play as he's been in recent weeks. Number two, you got Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic, I have for 49 fantasy points. Stokastic has for 53. I'm not really getting him in my lineups. They're not really getting him in theirs either. So Luka Doncic at 12-3. Not looking like a great play. As I've mentioned a few times for Luka in the past, and this is, again, assuming that he plays today, which I don't think is really an assumption we can have. Really, the rates have not been high enough on the Lakers so far. LeBron in court time without AD, without Rui Hachimura, without D'Angelo Russell. Obviously, all guys are either not on the team or not available tonight in Rui's case. LeBron's put up about 33% usage, Luka 35.5. LeBron a 41% assist rate, Luka about 36 and change. There's not really a thing where Luka is excelling in such a way when LeBron's on the court. Obviously, Luka can still hit a ceiling. LeBron can also hit a ceiling in these spots. But I've not gotten a lot of Luka since his Lakers run when LeBron's been available. It's not going to be the case today, it looks like. Karl-Anthony Towns, you have a pretty healthy Knicks rotation again. My Towns projection is still pretty high, though, 48.6. Stokastic has him at 44.4. So I'm good with Towns. I'm at 11% of my top 150 lineups. Stokastic has the field at 2%. SGA, 2% for the field. I'm getting 1. Not really a big stand there. OKC is playing the Lakers. You run the risk here that maybe the Lakers sit all their key players and you have SGA beating up on nobodies, but then you also run the risk of there being a blowout. Right now, the Laker game is a 15.5-point spread favoring OKC at home. So SGA, a good play, would be a better play, though, I think. If you do have Luka and LeBron playing, you get that shot at 4 quarters of run. And then maybe at that point, I mean, you're probably not going to be able to afford SGA and Luka. Maybe SGA and LeBron is a little game stack. I think there's some potential there. Not a lot of ownership, but that's really it for SGA. Not a great projection on him today. Really good projection on Paolo Banchero for Stokastic. They have him at 49.8. I've got him at 47.4. It is a situation for Orlando where their team total today is pretty high, so I think I'll end up getting a little bit more of Banchero and of Franz Wagner. I'll actually run my lineups later on today. But as it is right now, Orlando 115 implied points, Atlanta 111 implied points. Not the highest total for Atlanta's side, given the matchup against Orlando's pretty good defense, but still a spot here where Orlando getting a pace up versus Atlanta, some extra possessions, and also a not great defense going against them. So your highest usage guys, Banchero and Franz, I think vary in play today. Stokastic has Paolo at 44%. I'm not going to get quite there. I'm at 25. But I think getting good amounts of Paolo and Franz, and really, as we always talk about here, these guys do do grade out pretty similarly. Maybe in lineups without Franz Wagner, you boost Banchero. Lineups without Banchero, you boost Franz Wagner. You can play both together because Atlanta can hang in this game, and maybe they can both still hit. But I would try to favor more so them not being played together. This is pretty concentrated ownership with 38% projected for Franz Wagner, 44% for Banchero. I would try to make it so you're getting one of them in the hopes that one has an outlier day. It is only two guys that score for them. That's true. I mean, look, for Orlando, you still have on their team, I mean, you have Cole Anthony, I'd have projected to put up 10 points. Wendell Carter put up 10 points. Anthony Black put up 10. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope putting up 9. Corey Joseph putting up 7. So there are some guys that, are scoring some amount of points, and theoretically, if they hit the highest ceiling possible, maybe they somehow pull some production away from Franz and Banchero. But you're mostly right. Like, these guys have a ton of usage, even for situations where, you're on a team with like guys that actually shoot. But they're on a team where guys don't really shoot a bunch. So they both look good. But Banchero and Franz, I think it wouldn't be crazy to have one of them in every lineup. Jason Tatum, he's got the Q tag on him, would look better if he had some other players out, and he did play. As it is right now, they're only 4% for the field. I'm getting a 3.3. Not really a big stand there. LeBron, 1.2% for the field. I'm also at 3.3 on him. So a little bit above the field. Again, LeBron always projects a little bit better to me in these spots versus Luka, relative to his price tag being closer to 10K, Luka being above 12K. But LeBron, not a great play today. I think if you got Luka out and you knew LeBron was going to be full go against OKC and he's your one way that they could stay competitive in that game, I would take some shots at LeBron. I think the projection would certainly make it look like you can take shots at him. But I'm not in love with LeBron at this point either. It's just right now, there's really not a lot of great plays up top besides the Magic guys. James Harden on your FanDuel slate. If you need the projection, it's right there. Franz Wagner, Evan Mobley, two guys the field's going to be above 30% on. I'm getting more Franz than Mobley, but Mobley getting a boost up today from no Donovan Mitchell, whereas Franz Wagner kind of in the exact same situation he's always been, other than the fact he's playing Atlanta. So these guys both in play, going to be heavy parts of my lineups and also seemingly big parts of the field's lineups right now. Darius Garland, the guy who I think should get the biggest boost for Cleveland today because of not having Donovan Mitchell in. Court time this year without Donovan Mitchell, he's put up 1.3 fantasy points a minute on 54% true shooting. And for the year, he's been above 60%. So should theoretically be due for better days. A 31% usage, 35% assist rate, and this is about 1,200 possessions. So for Darius Garland, he's played enough without Mitchell. He should be the winner, but Mobley getting there, Mitchell getting there. Not Mitchell getting there. Really hard for Donovan Mitchell to get there today. Allen getting there, I think, is a possibility. Ty Jerome getting there, I think, is certainly something that's going to be a more likely thing to happen from not having Mitchell in. Cleveland overall looks really good today. But we'll see what else we get. Like, frankly, Mitchell being out at this point right now, doing this video at 4:10 p.m. East Coast time, like, these guys in Cleveland could look great right now. But if you got only Jaylen Brown playing, only Derek White playing, only Peyton Pritchard playing out of the Boston group, like, maybe that starts to look a little bit different as well. So you got to watch this one, and that's why, too, I think it's really important to keep an eye on projections throughout the night because, especially this last week of basketball, these guys are going to get ruled out a lot. The Q tags are going to not play more often than not, even more than we're usually accustomed to. So just keep that in mind. Top values right now. So despite there being this kind of situation with a lot of players not playing today, potentially, really not great values right now. Derek Whitehead's the one who stands out the most for me here. Last time versus Brooklyn... for Brooklyn rather, versus Toronto. He did not play that last game. No, he did play. Okay. He put up 28 minutes last game. That's not bad. All right. So Derek Whitehead, I wasn't seeing him for a second. I'm like, I thought this guy played like fucking 20. It's losing my mind for a second here. But Derek Whitehead, not a great contributor overall with the various nets not available. Whitehead has put up about 0.7 fantasy points a minute and 240 possessions with Russell off the court, Cam Johnson, Cam Thomas, the guys who aren't there, Ben Simmons, Dennis Schroeder. He hasn't been great, but he's an okay per minute guy. I'm an okay per 100 possessions guy. Derek Whitehead, he does chuck up some shots. He will get some usage in the spot. He's had 22% usage with the various nets who aren't available today not playing. So I think Whitehead's an okay play. 24% for the field. I'm getting him at 39%. The price tag at 3,600 is the main thing there that's going to help you out. Would definitely be a much easier click, though, if you were a 3K minimum salary kind of guy. Ty Jerome, we know the case, as we've talked about in the stream a lot here. Whenever I have Ty Jerome projected pretty well, usually a player I'm going to flock to. It's probably the case again today. Getting in 53% of my top 150 lineups compared to Stokastic's 40% ownership. Ty Jerome, the ceiling is going to get a lot higher. Court time without Donovan Mitchell as well. Ty Jerome has put up 1.4 fantasy points a minute, 66% true shooting, so probably unsustainable. But 29% usage, 28% assist rate. He's been really good for a guy who's always really good. He's been extra good with Mitchell off the court compared to, let's say, Garland off the court. So for Ty Jerome, I think he's a strong play today. You run the risk, though, that if he doesn't play well enough, if the minutes were to somehow get a little bit weird for him, let's say, thinking about the matchup more with Chicago, I don't know what would have played Ty Jerome off the court versus Chicago. So that's one thing where in some matchups, Ty Jerome, because he's not a great defender, they can get, kind of target him a little bit. They get him off the court potentially. Against Chicago, especially if Giddey doesn't play today, I don't know how you'd really attack Ty Jerome enough to play him off the court, but that's your risk for Ty Jerome off the bench anyway. 21.5 minutes projection. I was 11 for 28.4 fantasy points. Javon Carter. So Javon Carter expected to get more minutes today with Kobe White out. The issue is he hasn't really been in the rotation. Last game, he came in for Chicago at the end of the game with like 2 minutes left. Jameer Young, who's also a guard, they could theoretically give some point guard minutes to. He's not separating from those guys too much. On the year, Javon Carter's been okay, averaging just shy of 1 fantasy point per minute, 0.97 on 21% usage, 19% assist rate. Obviously, if he gets good run, he should be able to come in and accomplish something here. Your risk is that he might not be guaranteed the minutes if it's only Kobe White out. So I would like to see Josh Giddey out to feel really confident in Javon Carter, but a 3K minimum salary, especially if he picks up a start somehow, he's probably a player you're going to want to get to. Bulls also missing Kevin Huerter today. No Lonzo. They're basically down to the skeleton crew at this point. And I assume Giddey might not play. I think Unabated downgraded him to a 45% chance to play. So not looking that great. Reese Beekman had a good game last time out. Played a lot of minutes too for Brooklyn. I mean, Beekman's not projecting too well for me with the minutes that we have in from Stokastic right now. He's projected to play 26.6 minutes. I would still only have him at about 0.7 fantasy points per minute for today. I'm not with it on Beekman. Certainly, you could chase it there. The minutes are going to be there enough for him. I really think the Nets, it's kind of weird with the rotation they might put out today. Like, they should not have Claxton playing as well. Like, they should probably have just Drew Timme playing with, like, Beekman and, I don't know, Jalen Wilson. I'd probably bench Zaire Williams at this point as well. They should just bench, like, a lot of the guys who already know the deal on. But as it is right now, the rotation's still kind of deep. Taylor Horton-Tucker, I'm not getting much of yet. If he were coming up, he'd be on this value screen, and he's not. Jalen Smith, but if Giddey were out, I think that would change for THT. Jalen Smith looking okay at 3K minimum as well. Only 2% of my lineups have him 2% of the Fields lineups have him. I got him in 5%. Jalen Smith at minimum salary. He and Javon Carter, both cheap enough here to get in. The matchup's going to be probably benefiting them getting more minutes today because Cleveland should smoke Chicago even without Mitchell. But even not assuming that, the minutes are there for these guys and they're okay. And Jalen Smith, it seems like mostly vanquishing Zach Collins in the rotation at this point. Jalen Smith projected to play 21 minutes. Is that right? Jalen Smith projected to play 17 minutes. Collins projected to play 16 still. So I guess it's more the crossover minutes between them for Jalen Smith, but makes him playable at 3K. Alex Sarr. So had to boost Alex Sarr's minutes over the weekend with Vucevic hurt. He played 32 minutes. It was mostly JT Thor and Anthony Gill playing backup center. Rashawn Holmes also doubtful today too. So they don't really have another big man to go to. I think they prefer not to play Alex Sarr 30 plus minutes. They hadn't for a while, but last game he got to 32 without even closing that game. So there's potential, I guess, in some world that he could get to mid 30s minutes, but I don't know how that would happen. For Alex Sarr, though, should be a good producer. I'm at 37.7 fantasy points today. Stokastic has been at 33.8, but they hadn't updated for Vucevic being out. I think Alex Sarr looks like a strong play. 57% of my top 150 feels like a bit much, but the field's at 15%. I think getting at least 2x the field on Alex Sarr will probably be the way it ends up for me. They don't have big men for Washington at this point. Jose Alvarado. So he's been playing pretty well lately in terms of the fantasy points per minute. The issue is he's not really getting above 30 minutes. The rates for him do support playing him, though. With all the various Pelicans that are out, Alvarado's been producing fairly well. I mean, I would say very well. He's been producing 1.2 fantasy points per minute with, McCollum, Zion, Murphy, Murray, the entire crew. Ingram is not on the team anymore. Basically, take out all the usage guys. Alvarado becomes kind of your lead scorer, lead distributor, all that stuff. The issue is, again, the minutes are not high for him enough. If he gets you 26 minutes as opposed to like 28, 29, this projection wouldn't look as good. At 6,500 especially, I think there's a little bit of risk to it, but he's put up like 40 fantasy points in games lately where he has played 28 minutes. So Alvarado, I think a good play, 7% for the field. I don't know if I want to be 6x that. That's what I'm at right now. About 43% of my top 150 have Jose Alvarado. Patrick Williams, another guy getting some more usage and some more opportunity from the various Bulls not being available. If you do get Giddey out, I think that's also probably a few more minutes for Patrick Williams through that prism. 19% of the field's going to play him. I'm going to give him 27. Value really doesn't feel great. Like Patrick Williams is coming up a lot for me. I'd feel a lot better about him if you got Giddey out, if you got Vucevic out. I think that would look a lot better for the team. And for Williams' opportunity overall at 3,700. But if those guys are in, he's still a good play. He's probably going to play 25 plus minutes no matter what. So that's a fine enough value. But these are the guys we're talking about, though. Like, if you get a bunch of the Celtics out, you get, some of the Lakers out. Patrick Williams at that point, if he had the Bulls rotation at full strength, would not be as good of a play as whatever player you get on a Lakers team, without LeBron, without Luka, without Austin Reeves, even playing OKC. So that's the trade-off of the value we have right now. These guys look okay, but there might be other value that opens up and looks even better. Nickeil Alexander-Walker coming a little bit as well at 3,600. This price tag here works pretty well to build lineups. So getting 7% for the field, I'm at 11% in my top 150. Garland, we talked about already. He's a top value for me. It's why I'm getting in 63% of my lineups. Jared Allen coming in 33%. Didn't close a game lately for the Cavs, which was a little bit surprising. They went small, went with Mobley at the 5. I guess that's always a risk for something that could happen at this point. But for Cleveland today, going against Chicago, I think you need a big in there no matter what. So I would say Allen probably safe. And if you get Vucevic out, he's going to be close to the rim and probably able to do some damage against Jalen Smith and Zach Collins. I think Jared Allen's a good play today, but seeing him not close games, I think does pose a bit of a risk. We're going to go game by game as well, guys. You've gotten the majority of the picture at this point, at least for how it looks as of about almost 4:20. Nice. 4:20 p.m. here. Show some love if you can, guys. Subscribe down below with the like button. Leave a comment. It's been a stressful few days for me, really. Thanks to some of the best ball nonsense going on out there, but trying to keep myself focused on NBA here, on MLB as well. So that's the game here on this channel at Splash Play Bets. So please show some love. Subscribe if you can. Hit the like button. Leave a comment, because no matter what, as I always promise here, I show up and do the work Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. and soon probably some different time frames. But we'll see what that gets when we get there. And of course, Unabated, check them out. 20% off. Link down below. Stokastic, 15% off. Link down below as well. Use that promo code SPLASH on there. Just click the link and go over there and get whatever you want. Data Sims products. And if you want to get them for some master stuff, you do that using that promo code SPLASH. And of course, join the Discord. Really could be important coming up here for this livelihood of this channel to get you guys on there. Of course, talking basketball today. Michael Malone getting fired. Big surprise to me. So I had to not vent about it, but just get out some thoughts on it. Try to parse it out in the chat. Of course, it's a good community we're building on there. And if you are going to be a good part of that community, feel free to join down below. And of course, it does support the show here to get you guys on board. All right, game by game, we got Memphis 121.5, Charlotte 106 here. So Miles Bridges being a Q tag, late day downgrade. Certainly interesting thing to note. On Memphis side, the pace has been down a little bit since they've changed coaching staffs. John Morant getting usage up, but not enough for me to want to adjust the rates too much. If these guys are full strength, I really don't love the lineup. Santi Aldama is another one of those guys where I'm getting him at 15% right now of my top 150 lineups. But practically when we get to the slate, I would like to have flexibility. Like Santi Aldama, I don't think is a unique enough play where I'm like, man, I can't imagine the slate without Santi Aldama. So I'd probably knock him down to 10% max, maybe even stick with the 15, but I won't go 20, 25% for a guy like Santi Aldama here, who's just kind of a dude that has an okay salary point and projects, decently enough. On these kind of slates in particular, I think you need to be mindful of watch out for your Santi Aldamas out there. Memphis to me, not a priority. Zach Edey, if you were going to take the shot, I think it's worth it a little bit for him. You're going to have some good amount of minutes for him, you would think. Minutes have been up for him a little bit lately. I'm actually surprised Stokastic doesn't have his minutes up more. Because against Detroit, he got to 29. That's the last game out here on Popcorn Machine. You can see right here. So I'm a little bit surprised. I shouldn't have closed that tab. A little bit surprised, though, that they would have him that low in terms of a 25-ish minute projection. Either way, for Charlotte, you need a big man. So I think Zach Edey in play today, even though if he were chalky, I'd start to consider Mark Williams a little bit more. I'm just kind of a lever against it. Memphis to me, though, doesn't look that good despite the matchup with Charlotte. They're losing a lot of possession. Charlotte plays slow, and team total's not fantastic either. For Charlotte, if Bridges is in, nothing looks that good to me. If Bridges is out, KJ Simpson might come into play a little bit more. Tajon Salon, Daquan Jeffries, Nick Smith, those guys maybe in play a little bit more. It just depends on who starts here. But Charlotte getting extra possessions going against Memphis. Memphis is a tough defense, though. So really don't love the spot overall. But if you get a high usage guy like Bridges out, Charlotte's going to be worth a look. Chicago coming up next here. And it's worth pointing out today, the first 4 games are all 7 o'clock starts. Then you get 2 7:30 games, 2 8 o'clock games, and then that's the end of the DraftKings slate. So it's all happening in 1 hour. So you should have a good amount of news. Again, another reason too why I'd really be mindful of like, don't tie up everything to 7 o'clock games if you can, because you might get news somebody being out 7:01 p.m. East Coast time. It's sort of how it happens sometimes. Chicago, 112.3 implied points right now. I'm not getting Josh Giddey, which surprises me a little bit given the rate boost that I've given him overall. His rates without Kobe White, without Dosunmu, without all those guys, really strong, just shy of 1.4 fantasy points per minute. But at 9,900, you are asking a lot of Giddey in a spot against Cleveland as well, where he's facing a good defense. The bigs are still there. Donovan Mitchell being out might actually only help the defense even more. So don't love Giddey as a play, but I wouldn't mind having 5% or so if the field's going to be at 7. Vucevic not getting to, Bazelis not getting to, THT not getting to right now, but getting Giddey out would open up hopefully enough minutes that THT could be nice value at 3,800. I'd have him averaging 1.01 fantasy points a minute. That would go up even more if Giddey were out, and especially if Giddey and Vucevic were out. But as it is right now, Patrick Williams is best value. Dalen Terry not bad either, though he's never really a guy I'm super stoked to play. Patrick Williams to take the shot, though. He does seem to grab more usage from the lack of Bulls, lack of star player Bulls. I think he gains about 3 usage points overall from not having all the various Bulls who are unavailable today, including Kobe White. So it would look even better for him, obviously, if you got Giddey and Vucevic out as well. Cleveland on their side, a lot of ownership here. And this is a game, 7 o'clock game. I do think these guys look like unique enough values. Still might be worth limiting yourself to maybe, I don't know. It's a spot against Chicago and a really high total at 126.3 implied points, but maybe only one of Garland, Jerome, maybe only 2 out of 4, like max out of Mobley, Garland, Allen, and Jerome. It's a lot of ownership coming here, and you kind of want to just get the guys who have the outlier day without bringing the other guys along with them in a stack where they might get outscored by somebody else in the same position. That's how I would think about it DFS-wise a little bit if you can. But that said, I got 30% of Evan Mobley, Fields at 32. I got 63% of Darius Garland, Fields at 41. I got 33% of Jared Allen, Fields at 13. I got 53% of Ty Jerome, Fields at 40. So I'm up on all those guys. Like Cleveland a lot here with that total and losing Donovan Mitchell, which opens up the rates for all these guys exponentially. Not getting DeAndre Hunter so much today, not getting Max Strus so much. These guys look okay as values, but I have them lower projected on Stokastic's numbers, so they just didn't come up a lot for me. Washington, I did the minutes update here, as I mentioned before the show, for not having Tristan Vukovic. We've not seen an update yet from Stokastic, so we'll see what they give. But over the weekend, Vukovic didn't play. We saw Alex Sarr get 32 minutes, actually 32 and a half. I gave him 32 flat today. As a result, I'm getting Alex Sarr in 57% of my lineups, which feels like a lot compared to the field's 15%, but I get why it's happening, because if he's going to be locked into a good amount of minutes at center against Indiana, who does have enough bigs, like you need to play somebody out there like an Alex Sarr. I think the minutes should be good for him. So I'll take shots on Alex Sarr today because they have nobody else with Vukovic and Rashawn Holmes both out. Jordan Poole, getting him 13% Fields at 7. He really is not playing enough minutes lately, but has been going nuts the minutes he does play. Jordan Poole looks okay to me. I don't need to be 2x a field, but I'm basically there. Bub Carrington, I'm a little bit lower on. The rates just don't really support enough of the boost for him. That said, he's gone nuts lately, kind of like a Stephon Castle, where I think the projection's not all the way there, but he's showing a lot more ceiling than I think he's shown throughout the year. So if you want to play Bug Carrington with the field, 25% is the number to take it. I'm only getting 10% right now, accounting for the matchup and the steam total. Indiana, really high total on their side is 127 implied points. That said, these guys are all kind of appropriately priced. I would say in Halliburton's case, more than appropriately priced. So I'm not here. I've got Halliburton 6.5 fantasy points lower than Stokastic. That doesn't feel great. Halliburton, though, has just been a player that has not ever projected super well for me because he has a lot of ceiling days that seem to really matter for DFS. But overall, over the course of an entire season, he does defer a lot to Siakam, defers enough to Mathurin, enough to Nembhard. And now you're priced up a little bit from some of these guys like Mathurin in particular, missing games lately. So I don't love being underexposed to Halliburton in a spot against Washington. This high of a total as well, 127. But I'm low right now, and I'd have to really ignore my projection to get to him. So probably not something I'm actually going to do. But if you want to fade me today, play Halliburton. Pascal Siakam, I have about half the field on him as well, kind of the same situation as Halliburton. Miles Turner projects well enough for me, but I do have him about 3 fantasy points and change lower than Stokastic does. I'm not really sure what's going on here and why I'm this much lower on all the Pacers than they are, but it just sort of is what it is. 10% for me. Miles Turner projected for 32%, which I expect to drop. That's, once they update everything, but it's a pretty high number for Miles Turner right now, who has played well enough lately and had some slate-breaking performances as well. Nemhart, 9% for me, Fields at 9.5. Neesmith, 15% for me, Fields at 20. TJ McConnell, I'm at 9, Fields at 17. Getting a lot of these Pacers, which you get for the field. Again, it's a really high total. Save some time here. Atlanta, I've got nobody. Getting Karis LeVert 7%, Fields at 10. Gave them the rates they have with no Jalen Johnson, no Bogdan Bogdanovic, no DeAndre Hunter. But I'm now not penalizing the downside for Trae Young, who's been less effective overall with those guys gone. That said, nobody standing out here. Really aggressive price tags for a down pace, defensively tough matchup on paper against Orlando. Orlando on their side, we talked about Banchero or Franz. I think it'd be reasonable to play one of these guys in every lineup. They're going to project well enough here, especially with Stokastic data. If I were to give them a boost for how much higher their team total is today compared to what it's been on the season, I would also get more Banchero and Franz, your 2 highest usage guys here. So they're worth exposure. I only have 25% Banchero and 33% Franz, but you can get more here. It's just the same thing again for Orlando. It's a 7 o'clock game, so you do tie up a lot of ownership here potentially between these guys, between your Indiana game. Like, a lot of the field's going to be pretty locked up, I think, if these ownership numbers are accurate. Let's see. Mike Malone out, Lakers in 5. Well, we'll see. We'll see how they respond. You don't know if it's like player things behind the scenes making stuff happen sometimes too, but they seem like they just want to get rid of the GM and him because they couldn't get along. Like KCP, and I hate myself for it. Game theory logic for sure, getting leverage on the other Orlando guys, but I don't. He doesn't really get enough shots up, in my opinion. But maybe he has an outlier scoring day in addition to one of those guys. I just don't think he'd be the reason. Like KCP goes for 40 and those guys put up 35 to 40 each. I don't think that's the most likely, but follow your hearts. Gamble responsibly this time of year in NBA. New Orleans, 105.5 implied points, 6x the field and Jose Alvarado for me here. Big projection difference as well, having 6 fantasy points higher than Stokastic does. The rates support it. The issue is, again, that he might just not get to 28 minutes. And at that point, he has to be really efficient in the amount of time he's on the court versus a low-paced Brooklyn team as well. But Brooklyn at this point clearly thrown in the bone. Thrown in the towel is what they're doing for the year. Might be throwing in some bones too. But New Orleans, I think Alvarado looks good. I might try to couch this number a little bit more to a safe threshold, but he projects really well for me today. Yves Missy put up 40 fantasy points over the weekend when Alvarado was out. I think Alvarado being back in doesn't hurt him, but it does take some shots away. So Yves Missy, 28.3 is the projection. Stokastic has about 28.1. No other big stands here. Antonio Reeves playing more minutes lately, but with Alvarado back in, he probably loses a little bit to that. If Bruce Brown is out, though, maybe Antonio Reeves gets a start. I like him. I would like him more if there were no other legit players left. I think that's when Antonio Reeves is going to be of the most use here in this last week. Brooklyn, 107.5 implied points on their side. Again, they're missing Russell, missing Cam Johnson, missing Day'Ron Sharpe, missing Noah Clowney. Really kind of thrown in the towel for the most part, and some of the key guys here, not thrown in the bone. For Nick Claxton, though, he's been the best producer overall. I'm at 1.25 fantasy points a minute. His rates take a pretty big jump up from the Nets that aren't available. Fields only at 9% for him. I think he's a strong play if he's starting. You do run the risk, though, that maybe some minutes get limited. Drew Timme takes some minutes away because they clearly don't care at this point about anything. All the Lakers probable now. Okay, that's good. So that's one partial piece of the puzzle, perhaps. Besides that, let's see. Zaire Williams, again, another guy that feels like the minutes should come down more. I think you want to see what Eb Woman has. You want to see what Dariq Whitehead has, maybe even Tyson Etienne at this point. I think a lot of the guys we've seen for the Nets, I don't feel the most secure about because I don't think they're going to be there to pad stats for enough of the game. But Zaire Williams, I'm getting a 9%, Fields at 8. Dariq Whitehead, I do feel okay about. He's been in the G League enough. Him getting up some more shots here, I think seems like a pretty good likelihood. He's not a great projection, though, at 23 compared to his 26.3 minutes projection. But he's an okay play. If he starts, you feel even better about it. He comes off the bench, maybe be a little more cautious, would be my recommendation. For Boston, 110.5 implied points. We won't dwell on this too much. If the Q-Tag guys don't play, everything opens up. Probably then you're going to get Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, whatever is left. Really the only 2 legit guys, though, left. And Derek White, if you do get him, you're paying every dollar you're getting from these Boston Celtics potentially not playing today. If you get one of Tatum or Brown out or a couple of these guys out, but Tatum and Brown, one of them is in, they're going to look better as well. But as it is right now for Boston, all the Q-Tags, it just is what it is until we know. New York on their side, Brunson probable, got McBride back in as well. At this point, these guys were priced a little bit for lives without Brunson in particular. So Towns looks okay to me, still at 9,800, got him 11%, Fields at 2%. And Anunoby obviously was gunning for a while. Seems like he still wants to gun, but it's hard to do that with Brunson in. Really have a hard time going to him, even though you make the case I could probably juke his usage up a little bit more. Josh Hart getting 13%, Fields at 7, not really a big stand there. That could go either way for me on the slate, and I really wouldn't care too much. Lakers here, probable tags means I probably don't want to play any of them. That was really good. That was pretty quippy. I feel like that came out right off the tongue too. But at this point, 105.5 implied points. I do think they stand out as like, if this is a sort of show me game, they're competing at OKC, going on the road to OKC as a big underdog. Maybe they pull off the upset here. If they do pull off the upset, Luka, LeBron, they probably paid off in some way, at least one of them. Austin Reeves, maybe if the coverage is shading, it's the other guys a little bit more. But I have a hard time making a play on that. I'm only putting in 20 max and 5 entries into the big tournament. So if you're playing a 150 max, I would force some Lakers in. If you're playing a 20 max, you can, but if you have like a lean for it, you can. But the total really doesn't support going to Lakers today. Maybe it'll move up though. Now those guys are all probable. OKC 121 implied points, losing some possessions for a slower paced Lakers team. Not a great total either at 121 for OKC. Once they're in 125-ish range, that's when you start to see the Thunder come up a little bit more. Getting Jalen Williams at 9%, he's at a reasonable price tag. SGA with everybody healthy and not 11-11-4 for him. But if the game's competitive, he can get there. I think Jalen Williams is the play for me. Holmgren, we know. Stokastic is loved lately. Sometimes he's hit, sometimes he hasn't. But projection-wise, these guys don't really stand out to me. Minnesota, everybody healthy here as well. Rudy Gobert's been playing well lately in some soft center matchups. Maybe not quite as soft going against Milwaukee here. Getting Naz Reid, though, at 15%, and Jaden McDaniels at 14%. Barely getting Gobert. Fields going to play him at 9%. I'm getting 3%. Julius Randle, I got at 8%. I'm getting little smatterings of these guys, but nothing I love that much. Shaquille Alexander-Walker is a value, technically your best play. But Minnesota, I don't know. Another team, I guess, kind of like the Lakers, but slightly better projections. Maybe these guys are, in a competitive game against Milwaukee, the ceiling's probably a little bit higher than the projection is going to indicate. But the projection itself just doesn't look good enough, I think, to get much more in the field here. Lakers smoked OKC last game. That doesn't matter. For the total for today's game is what matters. If anything, when you smoke a team earlier on in the season, especially a smart team like OKC, you probably reveal too much on tape for them to get better against you next time. You're better off throwing like previous game results out more often than not, unless it's like the same team configuration over the course of a couple years and they've faced, even if it's like 10 times, you probably still don't really care about the DVP stuff, individual matchup kind of things. Milwaukee on their side, getting Bobby Portis in, again, not helping out Giannis, still getting him at 17% of my top 150, Fields at 12%. Nothing else here matters too much, though. Portis himself doesn't look playable because you still have Giannis in. If Giannis is out, though, down the home stretch, Portis wheels up. Everything else here, not really a great play. Kuzma's going to look worse. It's really kind of a gross situation. In your FanDuel games, if you care about the projections here, nobody looks that great to me for Golden State. You're getting Gary Payton in as a Q tag right now, so that is what it is. Devin Booker doesn't look that great to me either with a pretty low total for Phoenix. Nothing standing out. San Antonio not getting much here. Clippers not seeing much besides a highly projected James Harden. But that's the other parts of the game here. DraftKings late slate, FanDuel slate. There you go. But let's go to unabated next, guys. Let's learn about the conditional NBA projections, and let's hopefully find some good bets using that sweet premium data unabated that would have won you $60,000 if you placed all their bets 30 minutes for tip-off they recommend for you. Just let the drums hit for a little bit. Expert NBA projections, Justin Fan to the crew. Of course, Justin Fan from previously Underdog, Fantasy Labs, Basketball Monster. Now he's providing premium data with the unabated crew every day to help bettors make more money. Of course, dynamic projections is the main thing there, especially down this home stretch. You can see how things look for questionable tags. If this guy's going to be in, if this guy's going to be out. You can see how the projections look for either side of the equation. And of course, you can simulate some things. You'll see then data visualizations, aka graphs for yourself. Look at those sweet graphs. Look at those sweet graphs. That was really just a period. Would have been enough there. Of course, the Discord, lots of bettors there working all the time, around the clock, really, to make money, find theoretical edge. You can join that community as well. And you'll be counting your money at unabated.com/NBA. Use that promo code SPLASH, and they've been a great partner here throughout the year. And if you guys get in there, you'll still have more than enough time to try to make some money off the NBA regular season here this last week, but also the playoffs. Their data keeps updating. Their data's been proven here. As you can see with this graph, so won people about $60,000, placing all the bets at $100 units. 30 minutes for a tip-off, 5% or higher ROI. You don't have to place $100 units. You can just place $10 units. You'll get the same effect for yourself. But seeing that graph, seeing how the data works over the course of time is what you're looking for, the kind of hockey stick-like performance. So check it out at Unabated. They've been a great partner for me, and they would be for you too. Trying to get better at sports betting, pick'em sites, all that stuff. Let's go to the props now. The site running a little bit slow, so this might be agonizing for me. Agonizing for me and you. But let's see. All right, there we go. There we go. Pull them all in. And let's update that. You can see all your Q tag guys, so we won't see data on Charlotte because of Miles Bridges, Bruce Brown, Jaylen Brown, Josh Giddey, Kawhi, Pascal Siakam, Jason Tatum, Nikola Vucevic. So these are all the various projection sets. You can see here a lot of these guys less than 50% as well. Bridges at 45, Bruce Brown at 45, Giddey at 45, Nikola Vucevic at 45 because I believe those guys didn't participate in shoot-around today. So a little bit of a lean against those guys playing. Let's go to points. Let's simulate it out. All right. Scrolling down to make sure we're pulling everything in. A little pro tip for the unabated usage here to make sure you get what you want when you're sorting. Give you all the negative EV bets. That's what we're going to do. All right, plus EV bets, the highest ones. We got George Niang over 8.5 points, looking very good on PrizePicks. 12.6% EV, not playable anywhere else, though. So George Niang only on one of the pick'em sites, PrizePicks today. Isaiah Hartenstein, we got under 9.5 points, looking good on DraftKings Sportsbook. 10.3% EV for minus 115 odds. Not playable anywhere else, though. So Isaiah Hartenstein only on DraftKings Sportsbook for under 9.5 points. Trae Young under 25.5 points, minus 110 odds on DraftKings Sportsbook. Playable everywhere else, though. So Grand Slam, both your pick'em sites and FanDuel. Trae Young today under 25.5 points, looking like a plus EV bet. Isaiah Joe over 6.5 points, 9.8% EV on FanDuel looks the best at minus 114 odds. But a Grand Slam again, playable on DraftKings Underdog, on PrizePicks Underdog and DraftKings. But the best EV is on FanDuel for sure for Isaiah Joe over 6.5 points. Chet Holmgren under 14.5 points, looking the best on your pick'em sites, 9% EV on both. Again, a Grand Slam, though, playable on DraftKings, playable on FanDuel, maybe some asleep at the wheel on the data updates for these sportsbooks today. Chet Holmgren under 14.5 points, playable anywhere you can find it. KCP under 9.5 points. Maybe not a good DFS play, though. Frankly, there's sometimes unabated cuts at my confidence in my DFS plays as well. Under 9.5 points by KCP, 7.5% EV on PrizePicks. Not available anywhere else, so don't take it anywhere else. Aaron Wiggins over 8.5 points. Good on Underdog, not good anywhere else. Take Aaron Wiggins over 8.5 on Underdog. All right. Rebounds up next. Of course, we're going to do a DFS sim coming up as well. But we got to make sure to show the power of Unabated here to make sure you guys are getting down the home stretch. Scroll all the way up. There we go. All right, Isaiah Hartenstein under 9 rebounds. So another under for Hartenstein. Interesting. 13.7% EV for Hartenstein today on PrizePicks. Still playable on DraftKings. Looks better on FanDuel, though. Under 8.5 rebounds on there. So Hartenstein under 9 rebounds, under 8.5 rebounds. Good on PrizePicks, DraftKings, and FanDuel. Moses Moody under 2.5 rebounds, plus 130 odds on FanDuel Sportsbook gets you 10.6% EV. Looking good on DraftKings as well. Same odds on there. So your regular sportsbooks, Moses Moody looking good today for under 2.5 rebounds. Paolo Banchero over 8.5 rebounds, 8.5% EV for you on FanDuel Sportsbook, 5% EV on PrizePicks, 5.5% on DraftKings. So take that Banchero over on all those sites with full confidence. Devin Booker under 4.5 rebounds, 8% EV on DraftKings Sportsbook, not available anywhere else. So Devin Booker under 4.5 rebounds, only on DraftKings. Ryan Dunn under 5 rebounds, 7.5% EV, looking very good on PrizePicks, 5.6% EV, looking playable on FanDuel, not so much anywhere else. Lou Dort over 3.5 rebounds, plus 105 odds on DraftKings gets you 6.9% EV. A very nice number, I'm sure, at 6.9%. Don't take that bet anywhere else because you can't for Lou Dort over 3.5 rebounds, only on DraftKings Sportsbook. And Brandon Podziemski over 5.5 rebounds, minus 144 odds on FanDuel look the best, getting you 6.5% EV, but still playable on PrizePicks, still playable on DraftKings. Podziemski's over on rebounds. Assists coming up next. Of course, then we'll do a Stokastic sim, and hopefully they'll update their data. No guarantees on that, but dare to dream. Oh, they did update. Stokastic updated. Good. So we'll have a fresh DFS sim coming up as well. All right, let's scroll down again. All right, give me everything. All right, wow, really high EVs here. Underdog asleep at the wheel. Variety of ways. Under 3.5 assists, 52.8% EV here for them. Tyson ATN's under on 3.5 assists. If you can take that line, it's one of the best EVs you will find here. With ATN projected to only play 18 minutes and not be very good at creating assists in that time period. Brooke Lopez over 1.5 assists, looking good at Underdog as well. 19% EV on there. Brandon Pajemski, 15.2% EV for over 3.5 assists at -110 odds. Playable on your pickup sites and on DraftKings as well. So Pajemski, once again, over on assists, looking good for him across everywhere you could bet. Desmond Bain under 4.5 assists, 12.2% EV for you on FanDuel, 9.9% on DraftKings for under 5.5 on there. Under 5 assists, 7.8% EV on PrizePicks. So different lines for Desmond Bain. You want to take I would take the one with the plus money and the highest EV over the one with a little bit more breadth at under 5.5. But Bain on DraftKings, FanDuel on PrizePicks, they all look pretty good. Buddy Hield under 1.5 assists, looking good on your pickup sites, 12% EV for both of them. Trey Young over 9.5 assists, -125 odds on FanDuel, get you 11.8% EV. Not quite as good on DraftKings at 6.5% EV, but still playable. Same thing for PrizePicks, 5.8% EV, over 10 assists on there. John Morant over 6.5 assists, -111 odds on FanDuel, get you 9.2% EV, 6% and change on PrizePicks and Underdog. So if you want to play it on there, you can. Would not play it on DraftKings though. Last but not least, those PRAs. All right, so let's get everything in again. Scrolling down. Just make it into a song. Scrolling down, getting all the bets. Scrolling down, that way we can win. That's the theme song that I'm rolling out on the channel 6 months into doing this every day. Isaiah Hartenstein under 21.5 PRAs, looking very good on not on Underdog. Looking okay on Underdog, okay on PrizePicks. Very good on FanDuel though, 11.7% EV. Decent on DraftKings at 10.3% EV. A little bit less good on PrizePicks and Underdog, but still pretty good EVs everywhere. Grand slam for Hartenstein under 21.5 PRAs. Ryan Dunn under 15.5 PRAs. PrizePicks looking the best, 11.1% EV. Not playable anywhere else. Kyle Kuzma over 21.5 PRAs, -105 odds on DraftKings Sportsbook. It's a 10.7% EV. You can bet on Underdog if you want, but you've probably got better bets than that one at 4.8% EV for Kuzma. And an over on a day where Bobby Portis is coming back especially. Kevin Porter Jr. over 15.5 PRAs, good on DraftKings Sportsbook at 10.4% EV. Less so on Underdog, but still playable. 6.8% EV for the over. Underdog's 15.5 PRAs. George Niang over 12.5 PRAs, good on your pickup sites, 10.3% EV, not available anywhere else for George Niang over 12.5 PRAs. Grayson Allen under 15.5 PRAs, good on your pickup sites, not in your sports books, 8.7% EV. And last but not least, Dean Wade under 9.5 PRAs, plus 100 odds on DraftKings. The only place you're going to want to take it to get 8.3% EV. Of course, a lot more bets at Unabated. You can, in fact, let me see if I can scroll over here for a second. No, it doesn't. Where the fuck is that thing? There's something I'm looking for here. There used to be like a settings button over here. Oh, it's up here. I'm an idiot. Here are all the sportsbooks that you could have for yourself. I can only show a few on screen here just to give you guys a taste of the main ones I know you all have access to. But if you want an ESPN bet in, Bet Rivers 888, your offshore ones as well, your Caesars, your BetMGMs, your onshore ones, your Florida ones. Unabated has it all for you. So please do check it out. Again, really does support the show. You check out Unabated, get 20% off even on one of their monthly things. Try it out for this rest of the regular season and the start of the playoffs. And you'll probably find yourself signing up for another month, to be my guess, if you get the results we're expecting here. So check it out at Unabated. And of course, use promo code SPLASH on there. Let's go to Stokastic. And let's see what we get when we build 5,000 lineups. Data was updated at 4:31 p.m. So hot off the presses here on Stokastic. And of course, you can get all the data you want at Stokastic, even if you're getting every sport at once, or if you get just NASCAR, MMA. I don't know why NASCAR is one I went with first. PGA this week for the Masters. NBA data, NFL data when that's in season. UFL. I don't know if they have any UFL. Probably don't know. Let's not quote me on UFL. But everything else, though, it's 15% off. Link down below. Promo code SPLASH at Stokastic. Of course, a great partner here as well. Giving you guys help, well, frankly, giving me the best tools possible, but also for you guys out there, allowing me to show you guys a product that a lot of people are using to win a lot of money. I mentioned it on yesterday's stream, but the other slate, like when Giannis went for 95 fantasy points, the guy who was in first place didn't play Giannis. Stokastic user using the Sims. That's sort of what you're getting with the Sims that they have. Even when there are things that I question here, I always like to point it out and go like, well, I'm not seeing it this way, but like Stokastic has it this way, whatever. And sometimes we end up half right, like yesterday where Jared Butler was not good, but Lonnie Walker, great play. Adem Bona, great play, as the Sims were telling us. I had Quentin Grimes, of course, as you guys know, and he had a great day as well, putting up over 50 fantasy points. That's where combining, your own data, my data, if you want, my projection you get for yourself by joining the channel down below. Combine that stuff together, maybe that does provide an edge. But Stokastic, when they highlight stuff in a sim, it does tend to be worth your time, whether you're playing the lineups directly or you're just kind of using it for information gathering. Let's see what we get here. And guys, if you can, hit the like button, subscribe. You guys know the deal. It goes a long way for me here. Just one guy running a couple channels, dealing with the slings and arrows and death threats that come along accordingly, but we do the best we can to make it work here as always. Come on, Sim. Call it out. I don't have a second stream today. I'm done for the day. What's today? Tuesday is like the best day of the week for me. I just get to look at NBA all day, sit around, play with the puppy, and then come on here and do this stream. And then I get to gamble myself later on. And we'll see. We'll see what we get. Splash plays for the day. I feel like it'll look very different by the time that we actually get to the slate with all the Q tags we have out there. And frankly, if Unabated is right about all those guys being 45% likely to play, slate could get weird. The Bulls in particular, I'd say be prepared for that to get really weird. The Bulls game will know. Bulls game will know for 7 o'clock, so that's a positive. All right, top 150 lineups here for Stokastic. We'll look at the overall, but first, here's their top ROI lineups as of their data updated at 4:31 p.m. And looks like ownership just updated as well. Bub Carrington, Max Strus. So two guys I've said a little bit lower on today. They're putting him in the top lineup. Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. So another thing where I said I'd probably take one of them, they're saying right away, play the both of them. Alex Sarr, okay, we're in agreement there. Mikal Bridges, why? What do you want? I'd ask. Naz Reid, I got a little bit. Drew Timme. So Stokastic has really liked Drew Timme, and I like Drew Timme conceptually, but I've not played him. I didn't play him that one weekend slate where he went off. I don't know. I'm surprised with that lineup. Number 2, it's TJ McConnell, Anthony Edwards, Max Strus again, Patrick Williams, Alex Sarr again, Darius Garland, Paolo Banchero again, and Yves Missi. So the Max Strus part seems to be our main constant so far, besides getting some Cleveland guys with it. Darius Garland at number 3, Max Strus again, Franz Wagner again, DeAndre Hunter, we got another Cav coming in. Drew Timme, Anthony Edwards, Mikal Bridges again, Yves Missi. Why the Bridges? That's so weird to see Mikal coming in this much. Number 4, TJ McConnell, Dariq Whitehead, Franz Wagner again, DeAndre Hunter again, Wendell Carter, Anthony Edwards again, Paolo Banchero again, Yves Missi again. Really kind of concentrated top 5 here. Number 5, Ty Jerome. We agree on something. Ty Jerome, Dariq Whitehead, Franz Wagner, and Banchero together. Yves Missi, John Morant, DeAndre Hunter, Drew Timme. Man, this is not my player pool right now. Maybe with their data updating, the minutes moving around, if I put them into my stuff, maybe it'll get me closer to here, but I am surprised by that. Missing Bulls in those because the Bulls are still Q tags right now. But if you get Giddey, if Unabated's right and that Giddey and Vucevic are more like 45% chance of plays, you'll certainly get some more Bulls in. But with Kobe White out, you're not really going to get a crazy amount of Bulls, I don't think, besides Patrick Williams. Timmy seems to be a lot of a fart at a price point. I don't think he's a fart, but he is just like a 1 fantasy point per minute guy so far. You need Nick Claxton to be out, and I don't know why Nick Claxton would be out at this point. But your top ROI player, according to Stokastic, is Drew Timme. So look, you can question it as much as you want. We've done this enough times on the stream here, but then the player immediately smashes, ends up being a player you need. I would say if you're playing a 20 max today, get a couple shares of Drew Timme because Stokastic really seems to love him today with a 6.2% ROI. You're only positive ROI on the slate. Bruce Brown, who got downgraded to a Q tag, so maybe closer to not playing than playing. That said, he is still coming up here at number 2, negative 3% ROI for him. And again, ignore the negative number, even though it's important to note Drew Timme is your only positive ROI guy across 150 set. It's more at this point about the directional accuracy. So Bruce Brown, according to Stokastic, your number 2 ROI player on the slate. DeAndre Hunter, negative 6% right behind him. Max Strus behind him at number 4. Alex Sarr, negative 7% ROI, so at number 5. Nick Claxton, negative 7.5% at number 6. I would say at the very least, if you're going to play Drew Timme, play some Nick Claxton too to get the other side of the equation. Because if Claxton smashes, Timmy's not going to get on the court quite as much. Wendell Carter right behind him. Surprising group. Surprising group. Your top exposed players, according to Stokastic, number 1 is Paolo Banchero. 65% of their top 150 has him. Fields at 55. So a decent stand on Banchero in more than, well, basically 2/3 of lineups. Max Strus, 48% compared to the field's 24. So 2x the field on Max Strus, a guy who does theoretically benefit from Donovan Mitchell being out, but the rates really don't support him taking a big leap up with Mitchell off the court. Ty Jerome, 44%, fields at 42. So they love Ty Jerome. I do as well. So that's one I'll fully support. Drew Timme, 39% fields at 8, so more than 4x the field on Drew Timme. I just don't get it with Claxton in. I think, I mean, look, if you're going to play Timme that much, I would definitely make sure to get some Claxton, because Claxton, if he succeeds, is going to keep Timme off the court. Alex Sarr, 36% fields at 18, so 2x the field on Alex Sarr. Pretty big stance for Stokastic on some guys so far. Eve Missy, 35% fields at 23. DeAndre Hunter, 34% fields at 19. So those guys, a lot of exposure in Stokastic's data here. Highest leverage guys, Drew Timme, 31% more in the field. Max Strus, 25% more. Alex Sarr, 18% more in Stokastic's top 150 lineups. DeAndre Hunter, 15% more in the field. Eve Missy, 11% more in the field. Wendell Carter, 11% more in the field. And Bruce Brown, 11% more as well. And your most negative leverage guys, Darius Garland, you're getting still 31% of, but negative 14% leverage. Compared to the field's 44% ownership. Rudy Gobert, negative 13% leverage. Fields at 20%. He has smashed a couple times. Milwaukee does feel like less of a spot for him to get a lot of shots at the rim, a lot of rebounds, but it can happen again if you want to chase Rudy Gobert. Zach Edey, Stokastic giving you negative 13%. They don't like him very much. He did play almost 30 minutes last game. I like Edey a little bit more than this, even though I don't think he's going to be like a big stand for me. Taylor Horton-Tucker, you're getting him negative 12% leverage here, barely playing him, only 0.7% exposure in Stokastic's top 150. So with Giddey and Vucevic assumed in, Stokastic does not like Horton-Tucker. I think he'd be a better play, though, if you do get Giddey out and definitely get a start. Taylor Horton-Tucker, I'd say not dead yet, but if all the Bulls are in, maybe a little more dead. Maxwell Willis, sort of mediocre net. You're getting only negative 11% on him, 7% exposure in the top 150, fields at 17. Aaron Nesmith, negative 8% leverage, fields at 11%. Stokastic wants you at 3. And Dalen Terry, negative 8% as well, fields at 15. They wanted to get 7. All right. So that's how Stokastic's looking at things right now. I'm going to give you guys my splash plays, but in one moment, before we do that, make sure to subscribe down below with the like button, leave a comment. Again, it goes a long way for me here. Somebody's just showing you my work here on stream, give you the best data that I can, the best information I can from the amount of prep that I do on a daily basis. And that's going to be the case here every day down the home stretch, Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. Next week, things probably move around a little bit for the playoffs and for MLB. So stay tuned there because things can get a little crazy around here, but hit the notification bell and subscribe. Unabated, 20% off. Again, the graphs hopefully speak for themselves. You guys really would be winning a lot more money if you use Unabated's data every day. Honestly, I think for myself, like I can play DFS, get that done. I can't hit plus EV bets the same time period. Really wish I were, though, having had access all year long to do it. And I think for you guys out there, you can, if you have the time for it, you don't have to have those pangs of regret like I have by not following Unabated's data religiously. So check it out, 20% off, link down below, or use the promo code SPLASH. And Stokastic, 15% off. Again, you can see the avatars on top of every tournament. Their data is doing a great job for a lot of people out there. Still take some personal massaging on your own end. For me, I upload my own projections against their data and let the sim do the work. But for you guys out there, follow your hearts, use their tools and data. Play the Masters as well if you want. I'll be throwing at least a couple entries to the Masters because why not? We have good tools for it with Stokastic. So check it out. 15% off, link down below. All their data and tools. And do join the Discord. Really would help at this point to support the show because that's going to be a really important thing coming up. And stay tuned for some news on that in the NFL channel in the coming probably this week. So my splash plays. I think for me right now, Ty Jerome would be one of them that comes to mind immediately. I like Dariq Whitehead as a value. I don't think he's a Ty Jerome play. I think there's a chance that he could absolutely kill you if things go poorly. Whereas Ty Jerome, I think versus Chicago, I'm buying into the ceiling a little bit more for him. But that said, some risk for Ty Jerome playing off the bench. Same thing for Dariq Whitehead if he's playing off the bench. But I think Ty Jerome to me will be a big stand that I have in my portfolio. Alex Sarr, another one. The Cavs really in general. Darius Garland, Mobley, Allen. I'll have those guys above the field. Ty Jerome's my favorite of them, but Darius Garland, I think, is a pretty close second. I'd say pretty much dead even. They would both be my favorite in different ways. There's a lot of upside because of not having Mitchell and the fact they're playing Chicago. Alvarado, I would say Jose Alvarado, another stand for me. If you I'm already getting Patrick Williams a lot, but if you get Giddey out, you get Vucevic out, Patrick Williams, I think, would look pretty close to like a lock play for me at a certain point. There's going to be a lot of value that opens up, guys. So watch all those Q tags we talked about, watch the situations. Hopefully I covered it as well as I possibly can for you guys. But these last couple weeks, or this last week, rather, last few days, it's going to be really tough. We get to the playoffs, it gets easier because your stars are just going to play 38 minutes a game, 40 minutes a game. It gets a little more simplified. For right now, your biggest opportunity is paying attention to the guys getting ruled out, responding immediately, swapping around, doing that. So be prepared to do it. And that's it for now, guys. Make sure to gamble responsibly as always, even though it is always money time on this channel. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Bets because we're betting on everything here. MLB, NBA, prop bets, DFS. You guys know the deal. And I'll see you guys again tomorrow for more at 4 p.m. So enjoy your days. Good luck. Bye-bye.